person to tell me his concept of leadership and to take me through a few things. And one of the things he told me is that anytime you have more than one person in a place, the moment you have two, there is a tendency of conflict. Because the moment you have two, you have a perfect ground for them to have different opinions, different positions. And if they cannot reconcile it, then there will be conflict. But the interesting thing is that I have learned that it can be taken a step forward. If you have one person, you can have conflict. And what do I mean? Inside of us, sometimes we are conflicted. Should I or should I not? You're trying to make a decision and you're fighting against yourself. Should I go? Should I not go? Should I do? Should I not do? Now imagine how much we fight with ourselves before we make a simple decision. Now imagine putting two people together. Imagine putting five people together. And the number goes on and on. So the internal conflict is there. We are dealing with ourselves, dealing with incompatible ideas. I will have to forgo one. I don't want to forgo it. How do I deal with it? And then there's crisis or conflict. And then we're now talking about dealing with an external person. So conflict is a very, very real thing that we need to understand how to deal with. Now, let's quickly talk about the causes of conflict. Now, please understand that we'll only be talking about some based on the time that we have. One of the causes of conflict is what we call offense. Offense. And when I say offense, what I mean is this. Offense is annoyance or resentment that is brought about by perceived insult or disregard to oneself. Now, please take note that I underline the word perceived. So which means that if you greeted me and I perceive that that greeting does not carry respect, I can feel insulted. And as a result of that, I become offended. If you made a promise to me and you did not deliver, I can perceive that you did it deliberately. And as a result of that, I feel offended. And then I feel insulted, and then I feel offended. Now, what am I trying to say here? One of the easiest causes of conflict is offense. Can I say at this point that please, if you are an organizational owner, if you are an administrator, you are a teacher, you are dealing with people. If you have a high offense threshold, I don't think you have any business in that business. Because the moment you're dealing with people, you must be able to accommodate a whole lot of things. Does that mean that customers can talk to you anyhow? No. Does that mean that your staff or your employee can talk to you anyhow and behave anyhow? No. But that is what policy is meant for. So you put policies in place to regulate what customers can do and what they cannot do. What can make them be penalized or even lose access to your service. Now, all of that you can do. But aside from that, every other thing that has to do with interaction, the way they addressed you, the way they talk to you, you would have to be able to handle it in a very professional way without getting offended all the time. So that is offense. Now, let's see if we can practicalize the idea of offense. Now, please quickly take a look at this picture. Can you tell me how many legs you think this elephant has? I don't have too much time, so I would not be able to wait for your comments. But if you don't mind, just go to the chat and type in the number of legs you can see. I can quickly take a look at a few, and then we will move on because of time. We have an elephant there who has a certain number of legs. So please, if you're on this call, can you just type in the number of legs you can see? Type in the number of legs you can see, and my attention is on the chat right now. Please send it as a message. How many legs can you see? All right. Now, like I said, I will not be able to wait for the responses because of time. But I can imagine somebody say that I can see 4 legs. I mean, elephants are supposed to have 4 legs. Somebody says, but there is something else that looks like a 5th leg, and it is by the trunk of that elephant. I'm sure that it has 5 legs. And somebody else say, are you okay? Are you crazy? Another person responds, are you blind? Now, you see, as we have started now, offense has started. All right? Offense has begun. By thinking that what I see is all that there is a problem. Thank you very much. I can see 6 legs there. Amazing. Now, the moment somebody feels that my position is the position, you must be blind for you not to see that there are 6 legs there. Offense has already started. The person who you are addressing also takes offense. So when we have difference in perception, difference in position, then there is a possibility for us to take offense. Now, let's move on very quickly. What is the next thing that can cause conflict? Wrong perception. Wrong perception is when you see something differently. A man by the name Lee argues that what people perceive about an issue is more important than the objective fact. In other words, how you see things is more important than the thing itself. I wish that everyone on this call will understand conflict, wrong perception. Wrong perception is when you see something differently. A man by the name Lee argues that what people perceive about an issue is more important than the objective fact. In other words, how you see things is more important than the thing itself. I wish that everyone on this call will understand that it is not about right and wrong. It is not about black and white. It's about how people perceive it to be. That is why your good intention can be misunderstood, even when you are trying to be as good as possible. The way people see things is the way they interpret things. So perception is based on prior information, prior knowledge, prior understanding, and this is what colors the way you interpret things. So when you talk about a politician, the fact that you think that somebody has the highest number of achievement does not necessarily mean that that is the person that will be voted for. Whoever people perceive to be more favored or has the highest potential to give them what they want is the person they look at. So objective fact really does not matter. Now, please take note that in our conversation, we're not talking about whether it is good or bad. We're talking about the state of things and how things really are. Now, I want you to please take a look at this picture, this figure that is here. I created this to interpret it, to try and make you understand the power of perception in communication. And as I do this, I will illustrate it with just one example, which will be located in the teaching domain. Now, look at the first part of it, which is the message sent, the actual message sent through a medium. Now, the phone rings, and the proprietor of a school, maybe the principal, says hello, and the teacher says hello. The parent says hello on the other side. And the principal says, we have disciplined your child. Pardon me, we can't do all the pleasantries right now because of time. But we have disciplined your child because your child misbehaved. That is the actual message sent through the medium. The actual message was received by the parent. We have disciplined your child because your child misbehaved. But the message passes through something that looks like a window there. I call it the perceptual window. Before I go on to explain what happens, please let me tell you this very quick story. When I was growing up, I remember very well that we were reading a devotional, Our Daily Bread, I think. And a story was told in that devotional that I never forgot. It was a story of a woman who would look through the window of our house at the window of our neighbor. And every day she will lament that this neighbor is so dirty. Can you see how dirty our window is? She just does not know how to stay neat or clean. Every single day she will do that. And then one weekend, this woman that used to complain just had a little more time on her hands. And she said, you know what? Let me clean my house and clean everywhere. So she cleaned her house and cleaned her window too. And after doing everything, she did what she usually would do. She looked through her window at her neighbor's window and said, can you just imagine? Because I cleaned my window today, she also decided to clean her own. Now, I don't know whether you got the joke there. Our own window was brown, dirty. And when you look through a dirty window, of course, everything outside will be dirty. So interestingly, it was not the neighbor's window that was dirty. It was our own. Now, that tells you what perception does. When your mind is beclouded, everything that passes through it is interpreted by that. Now let's go on back to our figure. So your son was disciplined because he misbehaved. The message received, my son was disciplined because he misbehaved. Now the message is passing through the perceptual window. Perceptual window that teachers are bad, principals are always trying to trying to label children. In other words, having a reason to deal with them. So the message now becomes, okay, they are saying that my child misbehaved. In other words, I did not train my child well at home. So because of that, they are saying that what I failed to do at home, they are doing in the school. That is what went through the window and was interpreted. Now, the message sent back, you have no right to treat my child like that. Who gave you the permission to beat my child? Now, that was the actual message sent. It was passed through a medium. And the actual message received is, you have no right to deal with my child like that. Who gave you the right to beat my child? Now, that message passes through the window of the mind of the principal that is calling. What the parent is saying is, my child can misbehave, my child can be spoiled, you have no right to correct my child. That is interpreted. The message the principal now gets and sends to the staff is that, listen, our job here is to teach. If they want the life of their children to be spoiled, that is their business. So we teach and do our work. We leave them to deal with the burden of the kind of children they have. As a result of that, simple message sent became complex because of interpretation of perception. Now, I wish I can explain it better, but there is no time. But I need you to understand that any message you send is interpreted through the perception, the perceptual window of the mind of the audience, and then interpreted. Now, the next point, poor expression. What can also cause conflict is the way you express yourself. So it is not only the way, it's not only about what you say, it's about how you say it. There is a saying in African parlance, particularly Yoruba, that when you say sorry, it has a masculine gender and a feminine gender. I stepped on you, and you say, you stepped on me, and I say, oh, I'm sorry. You feel okay. But you say, you stepped on me, and say, ah, sorry, oh. Now, that is sorry. The first one was also sorry, but the other one carried the sarcastic tone. So which means that sometimes we say we are trying to help people. Sometimes we say we're trying to communicate with people, but the tone of it carries something else entirely. So when we say we have good intention and we communicate poorly, it also causes conflict. Now, how do we resolve conflict? The first thing I would suggest is that you get rid of offense. Get rid of offense. How do you get rid of offense? As a leader, as an administrator, as the owner of a business, as someone that people follow, you must become a basket and not a bucket. Please take a look at the picture at the background. What is the difference? Everything that passes through the water, the basket, water particularly, sieves out. The basket only contains substance. The water goes out. But the bucket, everything you pour into it is retained until it becomes overflowed. Until it overflows. So what I'm saying is this. People can throw anything at you. They can say any negative thing. Let the emotion behind it sieve out. Just take the sense behind it and keep it. Because somebody can correct you in a very